All right, so conversations worth having originates in out of appreciative inquiry. And if you think about the conversations that you have on a regular basis, they're kind of like the water that fish swim in. They are omnipresent. We are always in conversation with other people or with ourselves, that kind of nonstop chatter. And when those conversations are healthy and moving towards what works for all people, then just like the fish swimming in really healthy, clean water, we as people can thrive. And so in order to create fresh, clean, thriving conversations for us to swim in, we recommend two practices. The first one is generative questions. And a generative question is one that changes the way people think. For example, if somebody is complaining about something, you can ask a simple generative question like, well, what would you like to have happen instead? And they immediately begin thinking about what they want instead of what they don't want, which leads us to the other practice, which is positive framing. Instead of focusing your conversations around what's wrong or what you don't want or what's negative about a situation, focus it on what you want, or focus it on deepening understanding or connection with people. And those two practices work arm in arm together. So if you're having outcomes focused and inquiry based conversations, you're in a conversation worth having. So what we're going to ask you to do is, in the chat box, contribute a challenge or troubling situation or something you'd like to be able to start to have a conversation around and you're not quite sure how to frame it so that you can have a conversation worth having. And if you'll type those in the chat box, then what we're going to do in a minute is Jackie will bring up a whiteboard. We'll choose one of those scenarios or one of those situations and put it on the whiteboard. And then you can join us on the whiteboard. And if you've never done this before, there will be at the very top of your screen a place where you can click on View Options. It'll give you a drop-down menu and just scan down till you see the word Annotate. Click on that and a bar will come across at the top. You can choose your color and set your font. We recommend no larger than 14 points just so that we can get everybody's comments on. And then click T and you can type your generative question. So let's stop sharing the screen and let's move to the whiteboard.
And I'm going to move us to the whiteboard. And if you can, in the chat box, while I'm trying to move us to the whiteboard, is type in a challenge, an issue, or something that you would like help around having a conversation worth having. Of course, I lose the ability to see the chat box once I put the whiteboard up. So I'm Sherry.
I will grab something.
Grab the topics. And as Sherry's looking for topics from the chat from you, you'll see in your whiteboard that you will have the ability to also save the chat. Now we'll send it out to everybody on our mailing list, but you can also, if you click on save before I clear it, you can save it and it downloads to a Zoom folder in your document box on your computer.
All right. Whoop, we've got two of them now.
Okay. So the first one is, I'm worried we won't actually make significant changes to our system based on racial equity. Can we get some more context on who put that in the chat box so we can help you in putting in generative types of questions here?
Um,
Unmute yourself.
I threw that up there from somebody I was just talking with just prior to this call. And it's the being concerned that a few changes will be made and then everything will just go back to normal, and that we won't actually create systemic change that will work for everybody.
So I see that we have two questions on the board. One is, what if the return to work situation fall leaves no reason for my day-to-day job? And then I think we want to tackle one issue at a time.
Why don't we go with the what if the return to work situation in the fall leaves no reason for my day-to-day job? And if you want to just delete that top corner one.
So we'll start with this one.
Yeah, and if Christina, if you can, the green one was Christina's. If you can give a little more context.
Sure. This is actually not something I'm personally concerned about, but I have employees and others that I work with who are continuing to be worried about this. So I'm just looking for ways. We work at a university, so the university will be open, but our particular job has to do with events. And if we're only focusing on classes and not supporting events, that's what we do. So what do we do if there's no events? But I think, you know, there are others in other parts of the university thinking the same thing, and at other workplaces.
Okay, just a note, if those people who are putting their question, the question, if it's not related to this situation right here about returning to a work situation in the fall leaves no reason for a day-to-day job, if you can put that into the chat box, put your questions you'd like to work with in the chat box. And then what we're doing on this white page is putting up generative questions that people can ask around the issue we're focused on. So right now we're focusing on the issue. What if the return to work situation in the fall leaves no reason for my day-to-day job? Because my day-to-day job actually is events. So it's on bringing lots of people together around things. What happens?
And this other topic, how do we have a conversation with our boss who feels, that's a really great one for the next one. So I'm going to remove it from here. So whoever typed that, put it into the chat so we'll use it for the next one. And so what we want to do is really focus on Christine's, her asking, what if the return to the work situation in the fall leaves no reason for my day-to-day job? And that's pertaining to people who typically do events on ground. And so what kind of questions could we start a conversation? How do we shift to a virtual events environment for open houses, graduations? Everybody loves that one. Lots of hearts. Somebody's figured out how to use the stamp. Many of you have. And you can put a little heart if you click on stamp in your toolbar, or even a star above something, a question you like.
So Christina, if you can, as you're looking at these, do any of them strike you as really provocative questions that could start a rich conversation?
Yes, absolutely. We actually have already started talking about virtual events, so that is, happening. I love what's the purpose behind this event? We have a lot of welcoming back events that are meant to be sort of traditional and, student body wide. And so that's a real challenge, how to get that feeling without having a typical, in-person event. And we, as you probably know, in events, we have a lot of creative people. And so this is, we're just having to sort of turn that creativity a little bit and refocus it. So I think that is, yes, this is going to be very, very helpful. I appreciate it.
Wonderful. Yay.
That's a wonderful question. I'm at my university today, and these questions will also help our events people. And they're making really good friends with the e-learning and the online departments and working together. Wonderful. Okay, I'm going to save this, and
Okay,
we'll get this out.
Before you save it, Jackie, can you just move?
Yep, I know. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Great. So what one of us does is I manage the chat and I move things around when you accidentally are on top of each other with your comments. So you can also save in your computer, but I'm going to hit on the bar here, and this whiteboard is saved, and I'm going to clear it, and we're going to move on. Sherry's going to grab a topic.
Well, there was one other one that got put up there about the boss. Whoever put that up on the last time, do you want to go ahead and just put that back up?
Yeah, somebody typed a question about the boss and trust, I believe, and people working from home.
And so Deb Connors is asking how you change the font size. If you go to Format in the toolbar, the Annotate toolbar, and click on Format, you can change the color and you can change font size. And we recommend no more than 14, just so everybody can get their words up there. And can somebody, whoever put this one up, can you tell us who you are? Whose topic is how do we have a conversation with our boss who feels that she's lost control because we all work from home? Are you on mute?
I like that. How can we reassure you that you are still the boss? Oh, it went away. There you go. I like that, understanding the word, what does control look like and mean, and understanding what that means, the wording.
Are you able to speak, the person who typed this in? I see there's a little up at the top. It says it's my question, but won't let me type in the chat box. Are you able to unmute and talk? Just to let us know whether these questions are helpful for you.
Hi, Sherry and everybody. Can I throw a question and I'm not in a position to type?
Okay, that's fine. Go for it.
Oh, sorry. This is Nicole, you guys. The question that comes to mind is to ask this.
You're going out on
you being controlled by is already have now and output like that.
Nicole, we can't hear you. Your voice is going in and out.
Sorry.
Muffled.
Oh, hold on. Hold on.
There's a beautiful question in the top right. How might you come together as a group to create agreements and ways of working together?
There's some great questions here.
So did Nicole, are these helpful to you?
I don't know whether this is her question.
Yeah, this wasn't my question. I was just trying to throw one in, but I think somebody got where I was going with the question.
All right, this is a very colorful board. Can we move on to another question?
Yep,
And
I've got one ready to put up.
All right, hold on. Okay, I'm going to clear the board. All right, Sherry, it's cleared.
Do you want to clear that?
Yeah, I see that. Okay, just a second. All right, now it's clear.
Okay.
Okay, Sherry's going to put up another topic from the chat area.
So this is Suzette's. Suzette, do you want to share a little bit more about what the focus of this is? Might be on mute. Suzette, are you there? Well, let's see what we can do with this. If you find a way to come back on, let us know.
Okay. Is that better?
Now we can hear you.
I'm sorry. I had a whole conversation with myself. So what I was trying to say was, based on everything that's going on in the country, people are now speaking up about the injustices, and we're starting the conversations. However, as soon as someone opens up their mouth or they see a tweet from 15 years ago, it seems like they're being persecuted for now coming forward. Well, why didn't you come forward before? So how do we continue to create the platform for us to have the conversation without persecuting people or them feeling, oh my gosh, now I've got to go back into hiding because of my beliefs or whatever happened in the past?
Yeah, thank you. There's
Great.
two questions in the top right, and how to move forward. You know, how do you want to move forward? And I like the question, what might be some norms or dialogue agreements that will support us having this sensitive conversation? So setting some operating principles or guidelines so that you can move forward? That's a very good question. I have to find my heart stamp. Yes. How do we learn to listen attentively? Yes, that's very nice. Listening skills.
Suzette, any of these strike you as really supportive for these kinds of conversations?
Oh yes, I put a couple hearts on them.
Okay, great.
Just keeping the lines of communication open. What do we need to do constructive to move forward? I mean, beautiful. We just have to implement them and be willing to stick with them. And I think that's going to be key. So thank you.
Wonderful.
Right.
Good, thank you. Great.
Go up
great
and I'm
question.
going to save this. Perfect. All right, you ready for me to clear it, Sherry?
I am.
Amazing what we can do in different states.
All right, here we go.
You guys are all the newbies. You guys are doing a great job with Zoom, learning how to play with the annotate board and the stamp and the text.
All right, Brian, do you want to give a little more background to your situation?
You might be on mute.
It's a great topic.
So Brian, did you post this one?
Brian Jennings.
Okay, I can do it from there. Okay, I'm having trouble with the stamp. When I try and unmute from the bottom, I get the stamp. Anyway, I'm part of well, the problem comes from the legacy left by my people in Ghana. We set up the academic system here and put ever so great emphasis on final exams, which has been the case ever since the Chinese started their civil service exams. Now, of course, we're finding that written exams are no longer fit for purpose. But of course, all the teaching and learning research was that final exams aren't really fit for purpose anyway as an assessment of learning. So now when we're in a situation where final exams have had to be abandoned, although the government here has reopened the university just for the sole purpose that final exams can be taken, how do we persuade academics of the evidence from the scholarship of teaching and learning that we need to move on and find more creative ways to assess student learning?
Great, thank you.
All right, I was just busy cleaning up the bottom of the board. Okay, how can we begin to discuss what employers are looking for? I love that, hiring traditional paper exams.
Mm.
Yeah.
Don't worry, I'm moving them around if you
Thank you.
put them on top. It's my job.
Brian, are any of these particularly strike you as particularly helpful that would work with the academics you are working with?
Okay, I think given the neoliberal framework that we seem to be captured in at the moment, the question about how we can begin to discuss what employers are looking for, I think that would be the one that most of my colleagues would have empathy with. I would like to look much more at what builds capabilities and have a different framework. But that's certainly the discourse that I find myself in a lot of the time. I think I like, are there other assessments we can support that will demonstrate mastery? That one I do like. And then I think the one that I put my 3 stars on is really, I mean, that just captures it. How many of you like reading and assessing the same information over and over and over, which is what we do. I mean, grading exams is the most deadly part of my job.
Yeah.
So I'm going to save this, and Brian, you and me and all those in academia, we have wonderful questions to bring to our assessment meetings.
Yeah,
as well.
yeah.
Wonderful. We are just at the stopping point as well. So that was perfect timing.
All right, save, and then I'm going to clear, and I'm going to bring us all back together in the main room as we finish up here today.
So, and our conversation boot camp starts next Wednesday. So next Monday will be our last Monday Kickstarter until after our boot camp trainings. But then we'll start back up again in late August. And unless there's a hue and cry and we can rope in some of our other certified trainers to help run these. Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining. We've got one more of these Kickstarters next week will be our last one. So if we didn't get to any of your questions this week, just somehow find a place to save it and put it in the top of the chat board for next time. So thank you everybody for joining us again today. For the newbies for coming and the returnees for helping out, thank you so much.
And thanks for our trainers who are on here supporting and helping to ask questions. We really appreciate you being here as well. Thank you. And we'll send this out to everybody.
Have a blessed day, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks.